Hello and welcome back to the Matchbook World Cup podcast previewing Sunday and Monday's games. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by Adrian, Clarke, Mark O'Hara, Miguel, Delaney. And the plan was to get straight into the fixtures, no messing, Mark. But look, we're recording this post the Iran game. Tell us a little bit about your emotions those last 10, 15 minutes, please.
I've just on cloud nine, really. When you have a big view on a team and they lose 6-2 in their first game and look at a shadow of what we're expecting, it's kind of embarrassing, really. So to pull it out of the bag, and deservedly so as well. How many times did they pepper that goal and hit the woodwork? So, yeah, I mean, it's betting's wonderful when it goes in your favour, and I was slumped and miserable for 90 plus minutes, and then that long range strike. It's not often I kind of get out of my seat and make a bit of a roar when a goal goes in, but my parents are downstairs as well, so they mustn't know what's going on. So I literally nipped down for a coffee, and mum and dad go, "Huh? I thought you were straight in Wales." Absolutely not.
Shirt off and everything.
Yeah. I'd love to see the camera there, Mark, in fairness. But look, you stuck to your guns with that fair play. We will get straight into the fixtures. There's Sunday, Monday's games. If you are listening before Friday and Saturday, they're in your podcast feed now as well. Quick reminder, the sign-up offer before we get to the guys' view on the 8 fixtures. And this is proven really popular for those that haven't got a Matchbook betting exchange account, want to either use the exchange for the first time, or are you previously using other exchange platforms and want to get to know a bit more about the exchange. So it's double the odds on podcast best bets, up to £50 in cash. So that's up to £50 in cash, double the odds on the guys' podcast best bets, either Sunday, Monday. They have a couple of running as well, and Adrian and Mark got it up with Brazil and over 1.5, I think, as well. So all you need to do is new customers only, enter the bonus code podcast. That's enter the bonus code podcast. Full terms and conditions are below and on our matchbook.com as well. And it's 18 plus, BeGambleAware. We'll get straight into the fixtures, guys. We're going to go on to Sunday's games. And the first game we're going to take a look at the betting is Japan at home to Costa Rica. And you can currently back Japan conquerors of Germany at 1.48, Costa Rica at 9.2. The draw is available at 7-2 or 4.5. Both teams to score. Once again, a common theme is favoured no at 1.72. Costa Rica are getting 1.25 goal at 1.86, and the total is 2.5, shaded a good bit towards the under. So, Mark, I'm guessing this market has moved a lot from after Japan's win, and so I was expecting maybe somebody to come in with a Costa Rica, perhaps pro angle, but you're sticking with Japan here, and you like Japan and both teams to score no.
Yeah, begrudgingly, I have to admit. Japan, they are 1.8 at the start of November to win this game. Now, they're no bigger than 1.5. Big market move. Japan didn't really deserve to beat Germany in all fairness across the 90 minutes, do they? Germany created more than enough opportunities to win that game and had to have the match sewn up by half time. And actually, if you kind of average out or simulate, I should say, the XG per shot of all the chances that Germany created, simulate them again 10,000 times, Germany were far more likely to score 5 goals than they were to score 1 goal in that particular match, which kind of goes to show the how football can be sometimes. But my big concern about Japan coming into this game is the expectation, which they're not used to. They're not used to kind of going into these big matches as favourites and expected to win, and having that 3 points behind them. This should be a free hit, but their head coach Moriyasu is pragmatic by nature, and I think we saw that for the first hour against Germany. They were pretty defensive, and it doesn't really suit them to be that way. So, need them to be a bit more proactive. And if they go for it, this match is there for the taking, really, because Costa Rica were beyond an embarrassment, really, against Spain. Spain were sort of lauded for their performance, and of course they are excellent, but Costa Rica were an abomination, really. It wasn't just the fact that they failed to have a shot; it was the fact that they downed tools so easily. Their defensive line, which is normally quite deep, was bizarre. It was kind of haphazard and a bit all over the place, and higher than I expected. There was no hustle, there was no bustle, there was no nastiness or spice that we've kind of come to expect from Costa Rica in these games. So you'd expect them to be better than they were. I don't think they can get much worse, but ultimately I don't think they offer too much in forward areas to trouble any team at the moment. So it's a begrudging kind of best bet from this game, but it was Japan to win and both teams to score, as you say, at 2.22. I think there are better bets to have, though.
Yeah, Adrian, you've got a few people to comment in your bet, Japan and under 3.5, as you can see on the screen there.
There's a few people agreeing with me. Yeah, Japan and under 3.5 is the one that stands out for me. I do agree with Mark. I wish he'd say what he really thinks about Costa Rica. I mean, he's sitting on the fence. All the adjectives are out there, but they were poor. They just want to not have a shot is just embarrassing, isn't it? And yeah, there was no fight. I mean, this is a team that have beaten Canada, America, Nigeria this year, but based on what we've seen in that first match, they're not going to offer that much here. Different type of game for Japan. Like Mark says, Germany would win that game nine times out of 10 with the chances they had. So don't get carried away with Japan. But I do like their sprightly forwards. They've got a little bit of energy about them. They've got directness. And they've got a bit of pace as well, haven't they, to make runs in beyond. And I think that is the key. Spain did it very well against them. We saw it with Brazil last night. If you've got a bit of pace to go in behind and you're willing to play those passes through the gaps, then you can really hurt opponents. And I think Japan can do that in this game. I don't think they'll run up a cricket score at all. But I would see them shading a fairly low-scoring game. They've scored in 5 of their last 7 games, Japan. The only games they didn't score in were against Brazil. No shame in that. And Ecuador, I would say no shame in that either, considering they've got, I think, 7 clean sheets in a row. So I think they're always worth a goal, Japan. And I can't see Costa Rica scoring. So, yeah, Japan and under 3.5. And to get it at 2.1, I'm delighted, I've got to say.
Yeah, seems a decent price. Miguel, you do like Japan and goals. And looking back at the Japan-Germany game and taking everything what Mark said, I did think Japan used their bench far better than Germany. Germany almost kind of took away their best players, where Japan were bringing on the likes of Tomiyasu. That made a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is my entire opinion is dictated by having watched. I was at the Spain-Costa Rica game, and now I think a lot of that has to be probably put into context of how good Spain were, and they had a real bite and intensity about them, and we'll talk about that again. But Costa Rica were just they were hard not to laugh, and just from that perspective, I would go with an overs here because this could be anything. I mean, I think that, and especially as you say, Japan, they seem to know how to use their subs well. If it gets late into the game, that could see a match stretched, as it happened with Spain as well, where they actually racked it up late on. And also, I mean, I was at Southgate. I was at England's camp yesterday, and Southgate was absolutely raving about Japan. He said absolutely wasn't surprised at Germany yet. They got lucky, but there's a real quality there, and I think a lot of tools to hurt Costa Rica with. So yeah, for me, Japan to win certainly, and I think over 2.5 to play, because I think this is one where it's better to be open-ended about the goals.
Yeah, okay. Japan and over 2.5, 2.5.
Adrian, as well,
Japan and
by the
unders.
way. Yeah, what an incentive, by the way. You know, the chance to pretty much qualify for Japan. They've got to go for it, haven't they, to some degree? Costa Rica have to put up a better fight, surely. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that Japan are favourites here.
Yeah, massive opportunity, and you give the Spain-Germany game that we're covering later on. Japan will have that result in before that game, which would be absolutely just make that game even bigger and bigger, whatever the outcome in this game. So yeah, we'll move them pro Japan angles from all 3 of the guys. Whichever way you want to play, you can check out Matchbook Insights, which will have a review of all the bets up over the weekend. So we'll move on to the second game, Belgium versus Morocco, and we'll take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com. You can back Belgium at over evens now, 2.04, and Morocco at 4.2. The draw is available at 3.55. Both teams to score. Yes is actually favoured at 1.95. The Asian handicap line gives Morocco a half a goal start at 1.94, and the total is 2.25. Miguel, I'll hand over to you with a maybe bit of a curveball. Have you ever seen a worse man of the match decision than Kevin De Bruyne in Belgium? Because I was watching with a few mates going, "It's the worst game I've ever seen De Bruyne play," and I've seen him play one game.
Well, I mean, it's been a bit of a theme of the tournament where I think if they've got some sort of technical team picking man of the match, the technical requirement seems to be how famous you are. And De Bruyne, he didn't really. It's a bit more of a concern for Belgium. And like, I mean, really on play, Canada should have beaten them. It's unfortunate. I mean, while I'm quite optimistic about their tournament, I have to say, it was a real shame that they couldn't press on in that way, because Belgium were there for the taking. I don't think Morocco were as good as Canada, but I do think they'll make this difficult for Belgium. My temptation is almost for a 1-0 Belgium win, but I think it's only safer to go, especially if it was okay for it, because I think this is going to be another one of those games with low scoring.
Yeah, okay, we'll move over to you, Adrian, on that. Yeah, Belgium were just very disappointing the last day, weren't they?
Dreadful, yeah. They lost a shot count 22-9. It's against Canada. team that haven't been in the World Cup in a generation. And yeah, I was really impressed with Canada, but yeah, they kind of blew the opportunity, didn't they? Because they had that power, they had that pace, they had the drive, and Belgium couldn't handle that. They really struggled. I think they looked leggy with those older players. They've got a lot of fairly slow players, even in midfield. Tielemans, who we all know has a great shot on him, he's a technically excellent player, but he's not quick, and you can really drive past him with forward runs. And I looked at Morocco midfield, and they were tigers, weren't they? In that first game, I think they were pretty impressive in the way they hunted around Croatia. They were the better team against Croatia, Morocco, but what did they create? Really didn't. I mean, no clear-cut opportunities. Croatia, even though they were second best, had all of the better chances, even though there weren't a lot of them. So I'm a little bit nervous to back Croatia here, because they did give up good opportunities that a team like Belgium might convert. So, but in general, my feeling about the game is actually that it'll be low scoring. This is really based on Morocco being such a good team, such a tough team to face. Belgium being very, very disjointed. We didn't see very much of De Bruyne or of Hazard. Batshuayi scored from basically a long pass, booted forward from Alderweireld. It was a good goal, but it wasn't anything they sort of really created inside the final third. So I think Belgium are a bit off it. I think Morocco will be desperate not to give too many chances up. And let's be honest, they're very hard to beat. I had to sort of check this stat when I read it, but it is true. They've only lost 2 of their past 40 games across 3 years, Morocco, to USA and Egypt. So, I mean, they've played mainly teams in their own continent that they probably should beat, but you know, they won't be easy to roll over in this game. I think it's going to be low scoring, under 2.5 for me, just to follow the pattern of a lot of the games that we've seen so far.
Yeah, 1.82 for Miguel and Adrian, under 2.5 goals. And Mark, I see your pro Morocco angle here. Is this something that you have picked out pre-tournament? And if you have, what's kind of changed, if anything, from the start of the tournament to where we are now, either with the prices or your opinion on both these teams?
Opinion hasn't changed. I still don't rate Belgium, despite kind of putting them up to beat Canada. They were awful. Been very anti-Belgium for a while now. Didn't expect it to be quite that bad. The market has gone massively against them. Like, it's rare you get to see a move quite as big as this. So Belgium started the month as 1.53 shots to beat Morocco. They're now odds against. It's enormous. It's almost unheard of. And that's the frustrating part, really, because if you want to get on Morocco plus half a goal, which I'm going to suggest, you've kind of, you're turning up to the party very, very late. The price is gone, long gone. But I still can't trust Belgium. And I wouldn't be as confident on going unders in this game just because of Belgium's approach, really. They've only failed to score twice in competitive games under Roberto Martinez, and De Bruyne is not going to be as bad as he was in the first game either. So the defence is still a shambles. The midfield is still disjointed. They're not as reliable without Lukaku, but they've still got star quality. But yeah, I mean, what made me laugh about the game against Canada was just seeing Roberto Martinez stood on the sidelines looking totally bewildered, like this is all a great big shock, whereas it's kind of been happening in front of his eyes for the last couple of years. But there we go. But yeah, I mean, I'm still pro Morocco. I like them a lot. So I thought I saw a lot of positives in their performance against Croatia in what was a pretty drab game in the end. I thought they started pretty well. And I love that right-hand side with Hakimi and Ziyech. I think they can cause huge problems to Belgium, who started for Carrasco at left wing back. He was booked and hooked at half time. Mounier came on. He was booked and almost hooked himself. So they've got problems down that side. Vertonghen's turning circle is long gone. So yeah, I'd look towards Hakimi to try and expose them, and hopefully Morocco can pick up something, because I think if they avoid defeat against Belgium, they're in a great position to potentially progress.
Yeah, so a couple of undershouts, Mark, leaning on towards Morocco still. It's eking out a small bit of value at plus half a goal on the Asian handicap line. We'll move on to our third game, Croatia versus Canada, and it's only one of the guys putting up a bet here, but we'll take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com. You can currently back Croatia at 2.2, Canada 3.85. The draw is available at 3.45. Both teams to score, yes, is favoured slightly at 1.94. The Asian handicap line sees Canada get a quarter of a goal head start at over even money, 2.1. The total is 2.25 goal. Adrian, looking at this game myself, I found it very hard to split them in the match odds. I'm guessing you're coming in some sort of that angle with the both teams to score play.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you've got in Canada rookies that looked fantastic, but ultimately fluffed their lines in the final third and with the penalty. Courtois, in fairness, Courtois is an amazing goalkeeper, isn't he? He's a bit of a hero for them. So there's a lot to like about Canada, but there's the question mark over their inexperience. And then you've got Croatia, who's got the players, but they're all knocking on a little bit. And you think, are they a little bit past their best? So it is a hard game to call. My feeling, and obviously the two lads, if they're not having a bet here, are a little bit stuck. My feeling was that I can see goals based on the fact that Canada was so purposeful, so dynamic, so unlucky, really, that they didn't score. I think that they're capable of unsettling a Croatia team that don't have great legs either. Let's be honest. Got some older guys in their team as well that I think that they can sort of play on Canada. They'll need Jonathan David to sort of bring his shooting boots this time, and a couple of the other guys as well. But I think they can get one. I really do. And then as I've just outlined in the game against Morocco, where I think Morocco was slightly the better team, Croatia had all of the big chances and were actually pretty unlucky not to score. They created some half-decent opportunities, and they've got that big game experience, haven't they? Modric, Kovacic, Perisic, etc. I can't see them going another game without scoring Croatia. So that's where I've landed. Both teams to score. I don't know who's going to win it, but I think it could be a 1-1 draw. It could be 2-1 either way.
Bit of spice about that game, by the way. You'll have heard John Herdman's comments after the game against Belgium. He basically said that he told his players not to worry. They put in a really good performance, deserve more from the game against Belgium. They'll be back this weekend to F Croatia. And that comment has landed in Croatia. And if you look at their local media in the aftermath, they're basically leading front pages, basically asking John Herdman, has he got the balls to carry out on what his words were saying? So they're up for this game. It's going to could be quite spicy.
And Mark, very, very briefly for those that might be just tuning in for today's podcast, you have a sort of, if someone wants to have a bit of a fun bet, sit out this game and maybe a couple of quid on the matchbook exchange, you're looking at the halftime, full-time market as a fun play, perhaps.
Yeah, just the price caught my eye at 30-1, really. Canada started so brightly against Belgium, put them under huge pressure, didn't get their rewards, and then sort of blew out a little bit in the second half. And if they follow the same sort of methodology, you could expect them to start brightly here, potentially get the goal that their play deserves, and then wilt. And as Adrian says, Croatia's got that big game experience, particularly in midfield. You expect them to be able to manage the contest a bit better than Belgium did. And they should, in theory, be winning this match.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting play. If you want a fun play, as I touched on, those markets are available on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. We'll go to Miguel in the next game. We'll take a look at the betting as we have it on matchbook.com, and group games and any tournament do not get bigger than this. Sunday, 7 o'clock kickoff. Spain versus Germany. It was already big, but my God, it's big now. Spain 2.44. Germany above 2-1 to win 3.05, and they really do need to win. The draw's available at 11-4 or 3.75. Both teams to score yes. 1.65, which is the shortest I think we've had in the tournament. And the Asian handicap line sees Germany get a quarter of a goal head start at 1.89. The total is 2 3/4 goals. So Miguel, set this up for us. Look, as I touched on, it was going to be a big game, but like Germany, this is must win. So let's just take for a second Japan win. Japan are on 6, Spain are on 3, Germany are on 0 going into this game.
Well, that's it. Germany could be playing for their World Cup future. I mean, if Japan win and they don't win, they're pretty much out. Especially given Spain's 7 against Costa Rica, and of course an outright defeat would put them out. It's huge, and I suppose it was already big, but I suppose most people also for the fact that it was the middle game of the group rather than the third one, as can sometimes happen when there's two giants in a group. But of course, all that has been skewed because it's very rare in a situation where the two giants, where one of them has lost the opening game and suddenly has this immense pressure on them. And just because of that, and also because of the way the two teams play, and we're talking about very similar ideals of football, although I think Luis Enrique has been responsible for an evolution in Spain. There's kind of much more intensity and bite about them, much more than in Euro 2020. And they've almost got like a better and fully formed idea of what they want to be than Germany. Flick, it does. Watching the Japan game was interesting. I think Germany generally were very good, created so many chances, but you could still see there's kind of these ongoing issues of the team, particularly this recurrent or persistent. Sorry, there's an announcement in the media centre again. Shall I wait, or can you hear
No,
me?
keep going. You're coming through. Okay, yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, there wasn't really.
Oh, we've lost Miguel. Obviously, geez, you'd want to know what's going on there now if they're shutting them down. His Wi-Fi down there, perhaps, as Mark somehow alluded to the last day. Mark, pick up that point. I did think of something when Miguel was talking, and you spoke about the perhaps 6 Bayern players starting. I think 5 did in the end, but the substitutions, I thought personally after 60 minutes, I went, why are they taking Gundogan off after 60 minutes? Am I missing something there? And this is not after time. This is what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah, he's Flick's been heavily criticised for it in the German media, and I agree. Why take off your 2 best players in Gundogan and Musiala? They were hands down Germany's best players, but I mean, he'll have to take his medicine and go again. I think this is game of the tournament potential here, without a doubt. To kind of state the obvious, really, but second half, this could be desperation, chaos, jeopardy, everything. This could be electric, really, and I cannot wait for it, to be honest. And I mean, there's various ways you can possibly look towards this. You could be positive about Spain because this match should suit them perfectly, irrespective of what we saw against Costa Rica, who, as we know, were an embarrassment. Their problems have come when they've placed deep-lying defences, stubborn defences. Over the last 18 months, they've failed to beat or failed to impress against the likes of Sweden, Greece and Switzerland. When they've played good teams who come out and attack them, Spain have thrived because they've enjoyed the extra space. And that fluid front three will definitely sort of thrive in the extra spaces afforded to them. And look, Germany have to chuck the kitchen sink at them. As you say, if Japan win, there's no option but to try and win this match. So I'm expecting it to be really, really end-to-end, exciting, entertaining, bit of a shootout, really. So surprised we can still get over 2.5 goals at 175. That has been sort of creeping down in the last couple of days. Expected to creep down a little bit further too. If you get an opportunity to back second half goals, absolutely do so. I actually thought as a big price, 4.4 on Spain to win and both teams to score could be massive, really. Germany are going to have to really push it in the second half, and that will create opportunities for Spain. And look, they answered all the critics about can they be clinical enough, didn't they? With almost everyone getting on the score sheet against Costa Rica. So, big opportunity now for Spain to put a bit of a hammer blow in Germany's World Cup. You're muted, Dan.
You're muted.
I was just saying, Gary Neville got an awful time on Twitter. If they clipped out a few clips from this podcast, we all would have been in a spot of bother, and Spain's lack of goals going in fairness. Miguel, we have you back. Mark was worried you were potentially cut out there purposely by the powers that be.
No. They're persevering in that sense. I mean, again, another mild issue. This obviously one of the least concerns beyond the actual serious issues, but there's been so many little snags actually in terms of kind of even like we actually had a bit of a spinal tap moment in the stadium at Lusail last night because we got down from the press seats, we're going down to the mix zone. Obviously, we want to see Neymar coming through, given his injury, and there's no signs. So we're walking around the kind of bells of the stadium for 15 minutes until some FIFA official had to kind of ferry us through some back door, and now we have these telecommunications issues. Yeah. But just on Germany, Spain. I mean, I think Spain have a better idea of how they play. It's 2 high lines, so I think this will be one game where we can safely say we hope that 0-0 shouldn't be an issue. I think there's going to be goals. I'm actually fairly confident about a Spain win, but maybe not quite enough to go for it. So I think the safer bet is over 2.5 here. I think there's going to be 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. I think once gets going, it could be a real kind of blows trade and stuff.
Yeah, and then Adrian, you're in complete agreement with the two guys.
Yeah, just screams overs, doesn't it? For all the reasons that both guys have put up there, particularly the game state with Germany potentially chasing goals in that second half. They've never beaten Spain, have they, in a competitive match either, Germany, which is remarkable. Tournament play, so only in friendly. So this is a little bit of a bogey team for the Germans as well. It's not the fixture they're looking for to potentially keep their tournament alive. That said, as ropey as they can be at the back, and I'm not sure about Sula, by the way, playing at right back. I thought that was that imbalanced the team, and he didn't look very comfortable. Certainly played Japan on, didn't he, for the second for one of the goals there. So I would look to make a change if I was him. What I would say though is if they can get into the Spanish half and get any semblance of control of the game, which won't be easy against that Spanish midfield. But when they do, I think that Germany have got some really exciting players. We know they have. Musiala's one of them. Gnabry, Muller, name you can. They trip off the tongue. I think they can cause the Spain defence one or two issues. Azpilicueta is not the player he used to be. Rodri played at centre half. He's a very good player. I love Rodri, but midfielder, really. Laporte's had, I think, quite a poor season for Manchester City. He's not the player he was a few years ago. And then Alba's always been better going forward. I think the back four is getatable. So Germany, I think, can score here. But you'd absolutely say, based on the evidence of that first match, that Spain are playing with enough confidence to hurt them as well. Yeah, it could be a real shootout. I'm like Mark. I just can't wait for the game.
Yeah, over 2.5 goals, 1.76, and Mark has kind of touched on the Spain and both teams to score price as well, which is quite big, over 3-1 currently on Matchbook. We'll move on to the fifth game, where we're going to cover the Monday morning games. It's Cameroon and Serbia. Who will be getting up for this game now? We'll see. Cameroon are 5.5 or 9-2 on Matchbook. I know Mark will judge him by that little smirk. Serbia 1.77.
It's 10 o'clock, Dan. Everyone should be up by that time.
Well, everyone should be up. Sorry, yeah. They should get all their work done and then get up for the game. Yeah. Draw 3.9. Both teams to score no is 10-11, favoured at 1.91. And the Asian handicap line sees Cameroon get a 3/4 of a goal head start at 1.99, and 2.5 goals is the total. So yeah, Mark. So those that do get up and have their work done and they sit down to watch this game at 10 a.m. Mark, you are expecting goals, which is interesting. The early kickoff.
Yeah, I am. The early kickoff curse. Yeah, you've given me that one before, Dan, and being proven right. But yeah, second round of group games, isn't it? So this is, I keep saying the same sort of words: desperation, chaos, and jeopardy, really. But both teams starting without a win, without a point. So they absolutely need this to keep their campaigns alive and well. And look, I thought Cameroon were better than I possibly expected them to be against Switzerland, particularly in the first half. And we know they've got quality in forward areas and Gieser in midfield too. But the question mark was around the sort of coaching and tactical element of things. And I thought they were a little bit too easy to play against at times, against a streetwise Switzerland side. So yeah, probably a bit too easy to get through them or around them, more often was the case. So, but this is caution to the wind time really for Cameroon, and it has to be for Serbia too, who really sort of surprised me with their own approach against Brazil. They were sort of had the life squeezed out of them in that game, but Kostic missing out was a bit of a blow, and Vlahovic didn't start. But we didn't see the Serbia we've come to expect really. They weren't allowed really to play for most part of that game against Brazil, but I'm expecting a reaction here. They don't play like they have done for the last 2 years or so in a certain manner, just to kind of turn up to the World Cup and be sort of beaten comfortably by Brazil and sort of go home with their tails between their legs. I'm expecting a reaction, an offensively minded reaction too, because that is where their quality is at individually and collectively too. So again, have my doubts over the Serbian defence, as I sort of have alluded to in this show a couple of times. Just 4 clean sheets across their last 16 competitive matches now. That includes conceding goals against some very mediocre opponents. So there's no reason why Cameroon can't score in this match. But as I say, it's a must-win game for both. That both teams' strengths are all in forward areas. Both teams' weaknesses are at the back. So I don't see any reason why this game wouldn't have goals. But I'm sure Miguel will bring me back down to earth and tell me why it's going to be a crappy game. There we go.
You ruined my little segue there. But yeah, Miguel, take it away and ruin Mark's opinion there.
Well, I was at Brazil-Serbia last night, and I was actually quite impressed with the way Serbia set up defensively and the size of that back line. Made it very difficult for Brazil for a long time, who really had to go at it. Also, I suppose on the other side, there are these questions over the fitness of Vlahovic and Mitrovic. And just, I suppose, with the nature of this tournament right now, I do think it's safer with games like this and where you have these caveats, and given Cameroon's opening game as well, although I thought they actually played quite well, I think it's safe. I'm almost tempted by Cameroon win, but I think it's safer to go both teams to score now. I think it'll be a 1-0 either side.
Okay. Mark's taking a lot of maybe what he thought pre-tournament. Miguel's taking a bit of what he's thinking of in tournament. So whatever way you want to play.
Well, I think just on that, I think what's become clear is obviously the abrupt start time is having an effect on everyone, but in different ways. And it seems like a lot of teams are almost going for what happened in the African Cup of Nations earlier in the year, where because there's a little time to prepare, the instinct is almost kind of to just do the basics in the first game or two, which is keep it tight. And I think that's influenced a lot. Now, that may change, I suppose, just because suddenly by the time you're into the second game, teams need to start doing things.
No, it is fascinating how that plays in 4 games a day, as we touched on, tighter turnarounds than any World Cup before. So interesting couple of plays there from the guys. Take your pick which one you want to do, or maybe do what Adrian and myself will probably do and sit this one out and move on to the Monday 1:00 game, South Korea versus Ghana. We'll take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com, and we'll go to you, Adrian. It's South Korea at 2.68. Ghana can be back to 3.15, and the draw is available at the same price, 3.15. Both teams to score no is favoured at 1.86, and the Asian handicap line is a draw no bet market. It's currently Ghana 2.18, South Korea 1.83, and the total is 2.5. That's a good bit shaded towards the under though at 1.61. So yeah, Adrian, you're going to go with a team here. So is this more a pro South Korea approach or anti Ghana, or both?
Yeah, it's I'm going to go for South Korea draw no bet at 1.83. I think they're going to be hard to beat. I do. I'm really impressed with their organisation against Uruguay, albeit Uruguay, like many teams at this tournament, intent on putting an ageing striker up front as a sort of token gesture to say thanks for all you've done. I mean, it did hamstring them massively having Luis Suarez up there. He didn't look fit. It's basically just standing up there waiting for a tap in case it came, and it never did. But no, I thought the shape of South Korea was excellent. They looked a really well-drilled team. We probably shouldn't be surprised about that. And they had their moments, I think, in the game. I don't think they had a shot on target, but they did miss an absolute sitter, didn't they? With what was his name? Hwang Ui-jo, wasn't it? Hwang Ui-jo. I think I could have scored that, seriously. And I'm ancient these days. So yeah, that was a shocking miss, and it should have been 1-0 South Korea, even though they hit the post a couple of times, Uruguay. So no, I think that they looked in decent shape, even with Son not really at it. They were more than a match for a powerful, strong Uruguay team. Now, Ghana are pretty powerful and strong. I thought Kudus was great in the game, and obviously when things got a bit hectic, Ghana came into their own, didn't they, against Portugal? But overall, I still think they're a little bit of a wild team. I think tactically they lost their way in the second half, a little bit like Cameroon. The structure they had a good structure for a half, and then after that, it started to go a little bit wrong. And I think that's where South Korea might be able to pick them off. So yeah, I just think tactically South Korea are a lot better than Ghana, and I don't think there's a great deal to choose between the two teams. So I'm going to side with South Korea here and say, look, if it's a draw, we get our money back. If they win, we take home the spoils.
Okay, yeah. Draw no bet, South Korea currently 1.82. And Mark and Miguel, you guys agree on both teams to score. Who wants to go? We'll go Miguel. Take it away. I'll let you to make the case first.
Yeah, I just think, Korea, their opening game, I think, was just, again, it's what we're talking about, this kind of theme of the tournament so far, the circumstances dictating the way a lot of those opening games went. Not the case for Ghana, of course, whose game against, as Adrian said there, just became almost a free-for-all. And because of that, and because of the prize for winning this game, which will put one side really very close to the last 16, I can see this being one of those that really opens out, with basically more influenced by Ghana's approach rather than Korea's. And yeah, it's another one of those. I think this will probably be a bit of a kind of a characteristic of the term there, where a lot of these second games start to open out, especially in the latter stages, even we saw with Iran Wales just before we came on. So I'm going both teams to score. I almost fancy, like, I had a bit of a think about this for my correct score later on. I didn't go for it, but I'm almost going to 2-2 Korea Ghana maybe.
Oh, that's a little bonus correct score.
Yeah.
What's going on? We seem to have lost.
The lads dropped out again.
Yeah, 2 of the lads, unless we've been dropped out. This is good. Should we move on then, Miguel? I was on both teams to score in the same game, to be fair, for many of the same reasons, just because the chaos that Ghana bring to the Adrian's back, the chaos that Ghana are going to bring to the occasion. But I thought they showed penetration and a bit more of a plan, I'd be probably a little bit higher on them than Adrian would be. I thought the second half of that game against Portugal was probably the best 45 minutes we've seen so far in the tournament, because things just went a bit out of the window really, and two teams just going at it really. The first half was probably the worst 45 minutes of the competition so far. So yeah, just big carrot at the end of the table for these two teams to try and win this match. So odds against them, both teams scoring, did stand out to me.
Yeah, and even purely that narrative play at both teams to score definitely looks like a pick at 2.06, as the guys have touched on. A little bit above even seems quite big to me. So we'll move on to the penultimate game we're going to cover. It's Monday, 4 o'clock, Brazil versus Switzerland. And take a look at the betting as we currently have it on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. You can back Brazil at 1.46, Switzerland big price, 8.4, draws available at 4.9. Both teams to score pretty even, but no's favourite at around 10 to 11 or 1.91. Switzerland getting 1.25 goal at 1.95, and the total is 2.5, shaded a good bit towards the over. So we'll go to you on this one, Adrian. Back to you. Look, Switzerland were probably disappointing first half, but dug out the result well in the second half. You given them a small bit of a chance, but ultimately you think Brazil will get the job done, maybe in a close game.
Yeah, I think Brazil and both teams to score no is my shout. So Brazil to win with a clean sheet. And look, Switzerland, we know about them, don't we? They're well organised, structured, but they don't have a lot of invention. They need teams to sort of get out of shape before they can hurt you. And Cameroon did that. They played into their hands in the second half, sort of by losing the structure of the team. Brazil aren't going to do that. I mean, they're very, very controlled. I thought against Serbia, the fullbacks much less adventurous than we're used to seeing in the past from Brazil. Casemiro's superb, the base of the midfield, two centre halves, just so wise and mature. I just don't see Brazil giving Switzerland much of a sniff here. See, I could eat my words, but yeah, I think that they've got it. They can do what they did to Serbia and squeeze the life out of them. And then inside the final third, we saw it, didn't we? They got a little bit of magic. They got a taste for it in that second half. 18 second half shots against the Serbs. Very impressive. I think that Vinicius Jr. is huge for them with that speed to accelerate past fullbacks, either with the ball or without the ball. Against these well-organised teams, you need either great interchanging movement or blistering pace, and he's got both. So I think he could be a key player here. And I just think even without Neymar, if he's not fit, and I don't reckon he will be, it's not like they don't have great backups to come in and deliver Brazil. It was Richarlison's night last night. Sensational goal, wasn't it? Wow, love that. But it could easily be one of 3 or 4 other players that turn it on against the Swiss. So I think that Brazil are looking a good place, and I think they can win to nil. Basically, it could be 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. Wouldn't even surprise me if they cut loose and it was 4. But more likely to be a 2-0, I'd suggest. So Brazil and BTTS no.
Yeah, Mark, for you, broad agreement, but you're kind of going to pair with under 3.5 there.
Yeah, for all the reasons Adrian's outlined already, really. I back Switzerland to be smart enough and efficient enough to keep the score down, at least. I think they've proven now over a long stretch that they can compete with the best teams on the planet. Of course, it wasn't that long ago we saw them turn over France in the Euros. They've avoided defeat home and away against Italy in the qualifiers, beaten Spain and Portugal in the Nations League. They're not a team to be taken lightly, but I do expect them to switch systems, play over three-man defence with wing-backs, and that probably means Fabien Cher coming back into the team. A bit of a reshape in midfield and potentially up front too. So, I did consider them backing them on the handicap actually at +1.5 because I think they can be competitive, but ultimately I think they'll fall short. I'm working off the assumption, like Adrian, that Neymar isn't fit to play. But I think 4 years ago, or even 8 years ago, there was a time when Brazil without Neymar, you'd be running a mile away from them. But now there's so many different options. You could even say they probably looked a little bit better when he was off the pitch last night, without the reliance of him kind of hogging the ball so much. So, and that's the joy of this Brazilian team. Like Rodrigo doesn't even start yet; he comes on and he's just electric. And they've got so many options, but there's still that solid and firm foundation. And look, Chichi ran a big surprise really to go with just the one defensive midfielder and Lucas Paquetá alongside Casemiro, but they just showed again they can just control teams and keep them at arm's length so effectively that can just see a similar sort of gameplay out against Switzerland. So yeah, 2.26 Brazil to win and under 3.5 goals.
Yeah, Miguel, Mark touched on this, that Brazil have so many attacking options, and you have to probably give them credit that, they've had Richarlison for a couple of years up front. Jesus is probably playing better football in the Premier League, but they've stuck with Richarlison, and obviously you got the 2 goals. It kind of shows that in international level, maybe sometimes you got to fit the teams into the system or fit players into the system, as opposed to maybe picking individuals.
Yeah, well, I mean, and all this is summed up by the fact that just 4 years ago, if Neymar was injured, I was literally just talking to someone connected to the Brazil camp there who was saying that if Neymar was injured, it would have been a crisis. There would have been a breakdown. It could have affected all. Now, obviously, it's not what they want, but they feel they can cover it. There's a confidence they can cover it. And I mean, even what summed it up as well in the game. I was at the game last night, and towards the end, they basically just brought in an entire new front three that anyone else in this tournament would love to have. Vinicius is electric. Then, I mean, to not be using Gabriel Jesus, I have to say I was very, very impressed with them last night. Even in both parts of the game, I think it was almost kind of 2 games in one. One, Brazil trying to break open Serbia, then the other when they finally done it, and they were just expressing themselves and kind of really showing the kind of the full extent of their qualities. And it's kind of, for me at the moment, it's touch and go over who's impressed me more, Spain or Brazil. I think maybe just about Brazil, and I think but for this game they're gonna have a similar challenge. Switzerland, really experienced tournament team. I wouldn't expect them to get thrashed. I think it'll be a similar pattern of game. So I would almost be tempted to go for Brazil to win 2-0 again, but I am not. I'm just to maybe not be so specific. I'm going for Brazil and both teams not to score, because that's the other side of Brazil as well. They're so solid.
Yeah, and that's Adrian scored that angle there as well. So Brazil, both teams score now 2.46 Brazil, and under 3.5 is 2.26, and that's the play for Mark. We'll move on to the final game, Portugal versus Uruguay, and take a look at the betting as we currently have it at matchbook.com. So this is the Monday night game. You can back Portugal at even money 2.0, Uruguay 4.5. The draw is available at 3.5. Both teams to score. No is favourite at 1.9, and the Asian handicap line sees Uruguay get half a goal start at 1.96, and the total is 2.5, but that is a good bit shaded towards the under. So Miguel, I might throw this one straight back to you. This is broad agreement with the unders play or both teams to score no. For you, you're going to go a little bit aggressive here, maybe 0-0 or 1-0 either side, so under 1.5 goals.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Portugal were better than I expected, I have to say, given that we criticised them in the build-up and given all the issues about Ronaldo. Although, I mean, as far as Ronaldo silencing his critics or whatever you want to say, my colleague Jack Brook had that tweet basically, from about a month ago that we're going to get Ronaldo score a penalty against Ghana, and we'll hear about how he silenced everyone. I mean, he was quite poor in the game. Well, I mean, there was 2 headers, and even 2 years ago, Ronaldo would put them away, which kind of says a fair bit. Although, given how he can, the gravitational pull of Ronaldo and what he requires him to be at this point in his career, I thought they worked. Portugal were much more mobile than I expected around them. Now, it's possible some of that was influenced by the way Ghana play as well. I don't see the same space in this game, and I think this is going to be tight. As much because, I mean, Uruguay have the point from the last game, but now is that a greater requirement to step it up a little bit. But I think this is going to be back to a classic Fernando Santos Portuguese display, and I'd be going either 0 or 1-0 either side.
Yeah, Adrian, broad agreement. So the way you're going into this game is perhaps both teams to score no, just kind of cover you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it just stands out, doesn't it? I'm thinking about the game tactically. I mean, it made me laugh at times. Diego Godin was so far behind the rest of the back line because he's sort of protecting his pace. They're going to sit in there, and we know that Portugal, even though they've got a bit of pace with João Felix, Rafael Leao off the bench showed it. The natural inclination was what we saw in the first half, which was all come short, neat and tidy. Let's not take too many risks. That up against the deep lying Uruguay block makes for a pretty boring game, in my opinion. I don't think they'll come out Uruguay in the way that Ghana did, because that's when things started to get a little bit wild. Long ball outfit, weren't they, Uruguay? Wow, they were drilling the balls from back to front. I think that they were missing a trick, not using Nunez down the middle. Obviously, did towards the end of the game. I think they'd be better off starting him up top, but I don't suppose they will. Uruguay won this game, by the way, 2-1 at the last World Cup. But I think there'll be less goals this time around. So yeah, I'm going to go for BTTS now.
Yeah, Mark, you have a couple of plays, so maybe go with your main selection and lead on to the long shot section with your correct score play. Very exciting. Well, the opposite of exciting correct score. Carry on.
Yeah, just repeat what the guys have said, really. I think the sooner these two teams bin off their aging forwards and bring some fresher legs into the team, it's difficult to sort of be too positive about them. So yeah, I'm expecting a pretty drab encounter, in all honesty. Uruguay, because of the lack of pace, and unless Ronaldo Araujo is fit enough in time, which doesn't look like he's going to be, they're going to still persist with Cáceres and Godin defensively, which means they have to sit deep. Means the midfielders end up less effective as well. And Portugal, as we saw in the first half, can be pretty turgid at the best of times under Santos. They only really thrived when Ghana brought the chaos, and I don't think Uruguay are going to sort of allow that to happen themselves. So massive match for both of them, obviously. So unders was immediately where I looked. It was 1.72. I know it's a little bit short for some people. So I took under one first half goal at 177, which means if there's exactly one first half goal, there's a push. If there's 0 goals in the first half, it's a winner, and we need 2 goals or more in the first half to see the bet lose. So yeah, that was an option. The other one was draw and under 2.5 goals at 4.33. But instead of doing that, I'll just lead you on to my correct score, which was 0-0, which is trading at 10.00. As I say, I've got, Ronaldo and Suarez were world beaters in their days, but at the minute they look well off the pace, and I think both teams are pretty cautious by nature. So we've seen a few 0-0s so far, and this was the one that stood out on the second round of group games.
Okay, that's and game state, everything kind of plays into that. Adrian, your correct score, which is Brazil.
I'm playing. Miguel actually said this.
Yes.
Without me steering him in that direction, I can see this being 2-0 Brazil. So yeah, great minds and all that. So yeah, I think we were in broad agreement that it's going to be a similar game. Brazil will have enough to win the game, but it won't be a rout. 2-0 appeals, doesn't it? Price of 8, 7-1. That'll do.
Yeah, Miguel, your one is Belgium 1, Morocco 0. This is an interesting one, 8.0. I guess they did win 1-0 the last day as well. So even though they didn't play well, the same could happen here.
Yeah, I think also Morocco games generally low scoring. Don't have much faith in Belgium, but I just think in a game like this, just a greater quality, even if this greater quality won't tell in the latter stages of the tournament, it will tell in a game like this. And with the nature of this competition so far, with this group and with these two teams, I'm quite confident about that, I have to say.
Okay, yeah, 3 confident correct score. There were 3 confident correct score, which at the time of recording we don't know the answer to. So, the listener, you'll know what had happened there, but we'll see. So, best bet time. Quick reminder that if you enter the bonus code podcast, new customers only, up to £50 cash, you can double the odds of these podcast best bets. So, we'll go same order again. Mark, your best bet in about 20 seconds is Spain versus Germany over 2.5 goals.
Yeah, I think this could be game of the tournament potential, really. Just the jeopardy that Germany have coming into this match, needing to win this game, possibly to keep their World Cup dreams alive. It's going to be difficult. Spain will relish the open spaces, and I think the second half could descend into a bit of a shootout, really. And I just think over 2.5 goals will probably keep trending downwards before the game. So to be able to get it at 1.76 really does appeal. I can see Germany absolutely contributing to the score sheet, but defensively, we've seen they've got weaknesses. And Spain, the way in which they started their competition, they're looking fluid going forward. So 3 goals or more, I think, is probably the bare minimum we might expect in this match.
Yeah. Adrian, over to you. Portugal, Uruguay, both teams to score 1.86.
Yeah, this one leaps off the page as being a cagey affair, doesn't it? I think that both teams are a little bit imbalanced, particularly at the top end of the pitch with Suarez and Ronaldo. Uruguay will sit deep and look to frustrate. I think Portugal will revert to type and just play things nice and safe. They won't find it easy to get the likes of Felix in behind. And I think it just could peter out. It could be quite drab. I think it could be quite feisty. I think that these are 2 really strong midfields. Actually, I think if anything, Uruguay have the better midfield. But I'm struggling to see either coach really taking that many risks in this match. So for that reason, I think it's got 0-0 or 1-0 either way written all over it. So yeah, both teams to score no is my pick here.
Yeah, and Miguel, last over to you. Japan, Costa Rica over 2.5 goals, over even money 2.1.
What I saw from Costa Rica against Spain, and just I suppose the way Japan are coming on, and I think it's safer to go high. Well, not safer. I'm actually quite confident about this could go to anything, and I just don't have any faith in Costa Rica. I mean, even in that game, they tried to go 5 at the back, 3 at the back, that almost became, or 3 in centre half, that almost became 7 at times. There were still wide open spaces.
Yeah. It screens goals, doesn't it? So a couple of goals shouts from Mark Miguel. Both teams score no with Adrian. Portugal versus Uruguay. Insights.matchbook.com. If you missed any of the bets, we'll be back Monday to record. It's relentless football, but we are enjoying it. Hope you enjoy the weekend's football in particular, and we will chat to you on Monday for the next World Cup podcast. Bye-bye.